So I'm reflecting on Japan's YouTube culture. Of course, on YouTube you can broadcast anything, and you are free to do that. That's a great aspect of YouTube, and But as somebody living in Tokyo, and if you look at YouTube culture here, I do feel that it is becoming rapidly becoming a deteriorated version of the terrestrial TV, which I am much opposed to, as people who know me would testify. I have been complaining about the Japanese terrestrial TV for many years. And so when YouTube became really, mainstream, especially among the younger people in Japan, I had really great hopes that they might actually bring alternative cultures to this island nation at last. But that didn't actually happen, as far as I'm concerned. And if we look at the so-called main, sorry, I'm holding my iPhone with my hand, so I cannot do this, with both hands. But anyway, when I look at the, YouTube channels that attract many viewers, I do feel that it's a deteriorated version of the terrestrial TV. In that they do not really address social, political issues that are really important for us. For example, in Japan, there have been always this inherent, this underlying discrimination against Korean people, for example, and which I think is a shame, considering, you know, the long history and relations between the two nations. And for example, the issue of comfort to women. You know, I really don't understand the particular political, uh, you know, context that this has been discussed in Japan, because it's a human rights issue, and from today's point of view, it is certainly true that these ladies had already had times, and no matter what you might argue, it was really a terrible violation of human rights, and so I don't understand uh, the Japanese media discussing these things in supposedly technical uh, context, but they don't really address the essential point about it. The U.S. military presence in Japan. This is a really interesting issue, and many Japanese people don't actually realize that military personnel can enter and leave Japan without the Japanese immigration taking note of them. It's really a interesting situation. I'm not saying that Japan-U.S. Alliance is a bad thing. I would say that it has many really wonderful points, but uh, the mainstream media do not address this problem. It's a really interesting bad for creation, I think. So these issues like discrimination against Korean people, but the fact that many entertainers in the post-World War Japan have been actually Korean people. I mean, with Japanese names, Japanese sounding names. So this has been a really interesting situation. So all these things that make Japan today, would be a really great seed for creative works like the Hamilton musical. You know, the Hamilton musical was really courageous in addressing the problem of the founding fathers. They were, of course, white people, but casting them, with ethnically minority people like black people and Hispanic people, that and putting music with rap and hip hop and so on. This has been the great invention of the Hamilton musical. I don't see anything equivalent to that happening in Japan, unfortunately. We do have these deeply rooted issues, but they do not address it. I mean, so I think it's a shame. It's a huge missed opportunity. And when I look at the mainstream YouTube channels in Japan, I do not see new cultures emerging. So that's probably one of the greatest disappointments in my life as a Tokyo resident in recent years, I should say. So I'm just stating my personal opinion, and I think I'm probably a minority in this country. Yeah, I do realize that. Although I do some media stuff and I write books and I tweet and so on, and I should say I am a relatively well-known public figure, but at the same time, I do feel that I am not a mainstream in terms of culture that I try to create. I'm always complaining about Japanese comedy, in that they do not address socially hot issues like this discrimination thing. You never see comedy on discrimination on Japanese terrestrial TV. But when you turn to YouTube, it's actually the same thing, really. I do make some efforts to, do some critical, sarcastic comedy on Japanese YouTube, but I don't see. I'm trying little by bit, but I don't see much of a change happening on Japanese YouTube. So that's a shame. So I'm just saying that I do feel that the Japanese YouTube is becoming degraded terrestrial TV, which is not really good for Japanese culture in general. So that's my personal opinion and a minority opinion, I should say, in this country. So that's all from me this morning. A kind of a midterm, well, not midterm, self-reflection exercise. Okay, so stay safe and healthy, and let's be creative.